Hey guys, Alex from 7th Hour Films back again with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Last time we had, now this is getting out of hand. No, this is getting out of hand, now there are 6 of us. Anyway. So yeah, Jolene and Hermes reunited as they were on a mission with some of the other prisoners to go find 2 other prisoners who had gone missing in the marshlands. And yeah, they encountered an enemy stand, which was basically a bunch of shrimp that formed into a big shrimp. So, a big shrimp, that's quite the contradiction, ain't it? But you get what I mean. Anyway, so yeah, they are currently working on figuring out who the stand user is and trying to take them out. So yeah, that's pretty much where we left it. So yeah, interesting stuff, and we'll see where we're going this time. So, like always, the reaction is down in the description and in the pinned comment for your viewing pleasure. I have to sneeze, but let's go ahead and get right into this episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Here we go. Well then, that was a surprise. Okay, so here's the thing. Last episode I was like, oh yeah, we see that one girl in the intro, so it's probably her. Boy, I was wrong. Technically. I was not expecting that. Okay, which, I mean, that is one of the great things about JoJo openings. They spoil everything and nothing at the same time. So FF, which is definitely a censor of something, FF is a living organism. It's a strange sort of living shrimp plankton organism that itself also got a stand that is a shrimp plankton monster thing. Okay. I mean, that is interesting. Honestly, I guess that here's where I'm okay with this. Because that is old school JoJo, you know? Now, the design and everything obviously is very, I say modern. I don't know when this came out, probably in the early 2000s. This is a while ago that part 6 came out. But this is very classic JoJo. This is part 1 JoJo, where, again, it's a mixture of part 1 and, more modern parts, or I guess later parts, where yes, it's a creature with a stand, but it's a creature, And this reminds me of the old days when we had Dio Brando, the vampire, and all of his, weird chimera creations, that he had, and some of the zombies that he had. This reminds me of that. Where, except now, it's one of those strange creatures with a stand, It's just that stand is very similar to, I guess, itself, So that's a very interesting idea. And they do make it work by putting FF within a human body. But it's just a very weird but interesting idea. So, and again, it kind of goes, I feel like this, more than anything, harkens back to that sort of part 1 gothic horror aspect, Just in the fact that it is a monster, but it's a monster with a stand. I'm okay with that, alright? Now, I gotta look up what it's supposed to be called. Foo Fighters. Ah, I see. Okay, it's supposed to be Foo Fighters, but they just called it FF, which is interesting. That's pretty interesting. Let me look for... I guess we can look for a voice while we're here. Brittany Lauda. All right, let's see. Unfortunately, I don't seem to recognize anything on here. Oh well. Still, good voice. That is a pretty good voice. Go ahead and set this back down. So yeah, okay. This would be... See, it's interesting because it's like, this should be a classic, Alex is confused about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I will give it credit. Now, I don't understand how this happened. How did this happen? We're smarter than this. I don't understand how it happened, but there is at least precedent for goofy, weird monsters in JoJo. It's just that we haven't had that since part 1. That wasn't even in part 2. Because in part 2, it's like, okay, you get Straitso immediately, but then you just get the Pillarmen, Like, maybe there's, like, that one dude that Lisa just kills with her scarf immediately. That's about it. That's about it in part 2. Part 1 was definitely the strange gothic Victorian horror, with all these strange mythical monsters as well as Dio, So I like kind of harking back to that. Like, that's a really interesting idea. So, okay, and I'm gonna say it once again. Stone Ocean, the stand, is amazing. Just the fact, I forget that she can detach part of her string, part of her thread, Like, that is so cool. So she detached part of her thread, which started the tractor and drove it away. Like, that is so freaking cool, and I love it. Like, that's even, like, more, like, because I've often, in these 8 episodes we've watched of Stone Ocean, I've often compared Stone Ocean to Hermit Purple, And the interesting thing is, it's like, oh, okay, Stone Ocean, like, well, it has a physical body, or it has a body that can, bust out some auras, but Hermit Purple had divination. I guess that's sort of the give and take. Honestly, a perfect thing for me would be merging those two together, But now, another thing that really makes me enjoy Stone Ocean, apart from Hermit Purple, is the detachment of the thread, That is not at least that's not something we ever saw Joseph do. Now, granted, again, if Joseph was young when he got Hermit Purple, maybe that could have happened, Like, can you imagine? Because we saw Joseph use strings so many times in part 2. Just imagine, he's laying some sort of trap, but instead it's Hermit Purple, So, in a sense, that could be it, That could have been it. It's just that Joseph, as an old man, we didn't get enough of that. We didn't get enough of Joseph to see, honestly, I guess just the full potential of Hermit Purple. But now, even though we don't have the divination that Hermit Purple had, we do have something very, very interesting. Just the intricate, interesting uses of Stone Ocean. I freaking love it. Stone Ocean has skyrocketed as one of my favorite stands, Like, honestly, it may be... I mean, I'd have to really, like, re-examine the stands to, like, fully make it. But I know that my top 2 are Shining Diamond and Hermit Purple. And now, Stone Ocean is definitely up there. So, I really, really enjoy Stone Ocean. It's just so friggin' clever, And again, it's one of those things where it's like, man, I'm just kind of nice. It's kind of nice to have just a simple stand, It's thread. Okay, what can we do with thread and stuff? Instead of Giorno can create any sort of animal, and it's like, oh, for God's sake, like, that's way too much to think about, I don't know. I mean, and nothing against Golden Wind. I still liked Golden Wind, but it's not in my top 5, But you know what it is? It's limitation. And that's what I always say about JoJo. And kind of one of the problems with stands is that when stands can be everything, that actually isn't that great for creativity. Now, yes, stands can be anything, you know? A stand can be, you know, you put down a sticker, you remove the sticker, and the two things, you know, slap back together. Okay, sure, that's creative, that's different, you know? But then, limitation does bring creativity, because you have to really push those limitations, you know? Which is kind of why, like, that was kind of my big problem with the Requiem arrow, that it's like, yes, the Requiem arrow gives you whatever power you want and has nothing to do with the power your stand originally had. Like, oh, well, that's stupid. Like, what? Then it doesn't matter. And sure enough, that's my biggest problem with the end of Part 5, is I just don't like how it resolved with Golden Wind Requiem, you know? But here, I just don't see that happening, you know? So that was interesting. And hey, she did get the disc with Star Platinum back. And I actually like... So it's like, oh, this is the reject pile. It wasn't even that Poochie, I guess that's his name. It wasn't even that Poochie wanted to... it's not that he wanted to use Star Platinum. It's that he just... Obviously, he just wanted to take Jotaro out, you know? So, and, you know, with this whole thing of... Because we heard that it's like John Gallier was a sort of follower of Dio, and that's why he was going after the Joestar lineage. But he was set up by Poochie, Pale Snake. So, I'm assuming then that it's like, oh, why is Poochie doing this? I assume he's another... you know, disciple of Dio. Ironic, because, you know, they're calling him father. He must be a priest then. Must be like a prison priest. So, the Catholic Church is here, and they have stands. So yeah, so that's interesting. But again, yeah, it's no one else can use Star Platinum, and I think we talked about that a bit. Is that even if someone took Star Platinum, could he resist? And sure enough, he even resists Jolene. You know, Star Platinum rejected Jolene from using him, which is interesting. So yeah, so there are others like Highway to Hell or something where, yeah, you can give this weird little propeller thing to McQueen, and you know he'll have it, and that's just fine, whatever. But Star Platinum is too strong, and it will reject anybody who's not Jotaro Kujo, you know? Even, you know, that rules out anybody else. Like, I mean, that would be such a cool thing if, like, even though, you know, you'd have to bring him in, but if friggin' Joseph Joestar at 90 whatever years old, he just came in, just hobbling over, and then it's just, Star Platinum, the world! That just worked. That'd just be so crazy. But, I mean, we don't know. The one thing, too, is you could also make the argument, I mean, because we just found out that, you know, that Star Platinum can reject someone. I almost wonder, because it kind of brings up a sort of My Hero Academia thing, where it's like, oh, you've got All for One, who can give multiple quirks and hold multiple quirks and stuff. It kind of makes you wonder, like, can somebody hold multiple stands? You know, it's like, yeah, you're only given one, unless you're Kira, you're only given one, basically, when you get your stand, you know? Except for Kira, who had sheer heart attack, but that's beside... I mean, that was another facet of Killer Queen, but still, whatever. But yeah, so it almost makes you wonder, like, it could even be that it's like, okay, is it that Star Platinum... I mean, I want to believe that, yeah, Star Platinum just rejects anything that's not Jotaro because he's Star Platinum, you know? And we've talked about there is a degree of autonomy with Star Platinum that I appreciate. And I appreciate it more than actual sentient stands, but that's beside the point. So, but it almost makes me wonder, it's like, well, what if it's that... if you already have one stand, can you hold another stand, you know? Like, if you have a non-stand user... Well, I don't know. See, I think it's... Because it's also what... I think it was FF who said it, who was like, you know... you need a strong will and constitution in order to wield a stand. You know, if you gave Star Platinum to Holly, he'd fucking destroy her, you know? Because that was the whole point of Part 3. So you can't, like, McQueen couldn't take Star Platinum anyway, you know? So I think that's it. And it could just, I guess it could be that. It's not that, you know, you can't hold more than one stand. You know, because Jolene already has Stone Ocean, she can't hold Star Platinum. It's that nobody is strong enough. Like, you know what? The only person who could legitimately hold Star Platinum, other than Jotaro, would be Jonathan Joestar himself. Like, that's it. I don't even think Dio could hold it, because Star Platinum would try to reject him. But I think if somehow you brought him back in time, brought him to the future, if you had, you know, Jonathan Joestar in his prime, I think he could hold and handle Star Platinum. But that's because he's Jonathan Joestar. That dude was so goddamn strong, you know? And that's the thing, is that Jotaro is that strong in order to wield Star Platinum, you know? Nobody else could. I'm not even sure if Joseph in his prime could have, you know? Maybe Joseph in his prime, but nobody else, none of the other Crusaders, nobody can handle Star Platinum. But for Pucci, he just wanted to get that away from Jotaro. And it's also interesting that he says, you know, oh, I wasn't expecting Jolene to be such a problem, you know? He didn't think he would have to worry about Jolene. And honestly, I'm sitting here like, dude, if you think that, you don't know the Joestars. Like, he literally I guess he was only worried about Jotaro, which, I mean, if he is a follower of Dio, that makes sense. This is the man who finally killed Dio, you know? But he must know then that it's like, yeah, the Joestars are that powerful, because it's not just that Jotaro killed Dio, but Jonathan defeated him. Jonathan always, after that first boxing match in episode 1, Jonathan always defeated Dio. And that is passed on through that strength is passed on through his lineage. So yeah, you probably should, like, even if Jolene is a novice, you know, she only got her stand recently, you better worry about a Joestar being there. Even if you've already defeated Jotaro, you have to worry about any Joestar that's there. You know, if Josuke was here, you'd be in trouble. If Giorno was there, you'd be in trouble, you know? Even if Old Man Joseph was there, you don't know, his cane could turn into a gun for all we know and just blast him, you know? So yeah, but very interesting stuff, and yeah, already, episode 8, we have a reveal, seemingly, of our main villain, which again, you know, they because they took so long before we even got King Crimson, and then so much longer before we even got Diavolo. Now we're doing the opposite. It's like, yeah, we had Pale Snake for a little bit, and it's like, oh, okay, some mystery here, and now we have our main villain, Father Pucci. So yeah, very, very interesting stuff. I'm freaking loving part 6. This is really, really good stuff. And yeah, I'm excited to see where we are going from here. But that is basically it. With all that being said, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist for all of my JoJo's Bizarre Adventure reactions, as well as another video you can go click on if you want. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.